挫敗過，有力再去突破。講到想講嘅都講過，需要分享我分享過。每人都有名，每人都有姓，出世嗰一日就係最好嘅身份證明。每人都有名，每人都有姓，出世嗰一刻就係上天對你嘅肯定。寫俾你呢隻歌，將所有我經過我做錯，咪學我再做錯，因此我寫俾你呢隻歌，想當你跌低過挫敗過，有力再去突破。路從來都係好難行嘅，但係無論幾難行都好，我一定會喺度陪你。其實你嚟到呢個世界係一個安排，你會比你想象中更加偉大。
願你可不管出生在哪年份。 First blood. Pentakill. An ally has been slain. An ally has been slain. Triple kill.
I got more toilet paper. I got more toilet paper. Oh!
Very good. How are things going at the library?
Oh, I told you I couldn't close it, so.
So you've come to the master for guidance.
I'm tired now.
Elaine, what are you doing?
Sorry.
choo done. Mom, I can't help you right now. I have to run to another meeting.
Yo, Vedant, you know what we should be investing in right now?
Dude, don't get started, bro.
Bro, Tesla? Tesla, dog. Tesla, come on.
my
Jeffrey,
God.
Jeffrey, Jeffrey, come on,
Dude,
come on,
come
come on.
on. Not again
on.
with
I'm
this.
out.
Come on, come on. No, no, no,
Every
come
single
on.
time.
Simon?
You know,
Huh?
their stock dropped like 0.4%.
Tesla, bro.
so,
Come on,
you know,
come on.
I'm out, I'm
Don't
out. Yeah,
don't trip
sorry.
on Tesla.
Les rêves des amoureux sont comme le bon vin. Ils donnent de la joie ou bien du chagrin. Affaibli par la faim, je suis malheureux. Pas longtemps chemin, tout ce que je peux.
Fly me to the moon and let me sing among those stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Club Kidneys at Brandeis' 2020 Culture Show. We hope everyone enjoyed our introduction e-board video. I am one of the Culture Show chairs, Michael Leung.
I am also a Culture Show chair, and my name is Jessica.
And I'm the final culture show chair, also Jessica.
So I know that this is slightly different from what we're all used to for an in-person culture show. However, C2B still wanted to present you with an amazing show. So without further ado, welcome to our first and hopefully only virtual Yamcha.
This year's title is Leading with Their Authentic Voice, or in Cantonese, Wai Ming Yet Fat Sang. The theme of the show revolves around identity, as we're sure many of us have struggled with embracing our identities, whether it be our race, ethnicity, gender, or sexual orientation, just to name a few. Embracing our identity and fully understanding who we are is a complex development that constantly changes and is shaped by the dynamic world around us. Our show centers on the internal conflicts that many of us face to accept their race and ethnicity, with the goal of not only encouraging each other to find and embrace who we are, but to also welcome the authenticity that comes with it. We hope that by embracing our identity, we're then able to use that authentic voice for a better tomorrow.
And this year, we have the amazing opportunity of being joined by Canto Mando on this special night. For those who don't know, Canto Mando comprises of Edward Lang, Mike Wu, and Sheldon Ho. They're a trio of best friends from Canada who have achieved international popularity with their funny and thought-provoking videos on social media. Through their relatable short skits on Instagram and their unique YouTube videos, they are globally recognized as relatable and influential figures in the Asian community. But mostly, they're really just three guys having a fun time, creating videos, and looking to make a positive impact in the world. So without further ado, please give a warm welcome to Canto Mando.
Hi everyone.
Thanks for the introduction.
Thank you for the introduction.
Of course.
By the way, that was some like bomb music you guys put in the pre-show.
Yeah,
like the Cantonese songs.
Yeah, I just Shazam like two of them because they're so great.
Very solid playlist.
Thank you. I had a friend help me choose them out.
All Michael's doing. All right. So also, we just wanted to let you guys know that there will be a live Q&A portion with Canto Mando after our intermission. And for anyone who would like to ask their questions to Canto Mando directly, you can raise your hand and we'll unmute you to ask your question. However, if you don't feel comfortable doing so, that's totally understandable. I get it. You can always type it into the chat. And throughout the show or during the live Q&A segment, if anyone has questions, feel free to type them into the chat. We have people monitoring the chat and keeping track of these questions. So you can either message it directly to Chloe Chow or send it publicly. And we'll be reading out names of people who send them. So if you do want to remain anonymous, just put that in your message. Also, for your best viewing experience, make sure your Zoom is on speaker view. And on another note, we welcome you all to turn on your cameras so we can see your lovely faces, react alongside with us either on video or just through the emoticons in Zoom, or type in the chat if you feel comfortable doing so.
We're gonna get started now. As we all know, this year's theme revolves around identity and how we embrace it, as well as all the complexities that encompass it. So the first question for you guys, and any of you guys can answer it or you guys can take turns, totally up to you. But as influential figures in the Asian community, how did you learn to accept your identity? Or did you ever struggle to embrace your identity?
Yeah, so I can, so me personally growing up, I grew up in Canada, and I actually had a lot of struggle with my identity growing up. I remember at one point I was like, I absolutely hate being Asian. There's nothing I like about Asian culture. And I remember just like none of my role models, nothing I watched, nothing I consumed was Asian anyway. I was like, man, being Asian absolutely sucks. It's just not cool. And so I didn't really appreciate my language and culture. And so actually growing up, I actually spoke English whenever possible. So it wasn't even Chinglish. It was just constant English from my parents, even though they'd be like, oh, we speak Chinese and stuff. And I remember at one point, there was never any innate hatred. I never got like outright bullied in any way, but I was associated with not being cool. And I said, you know what? I would rather be anything but Asian at some point. And so I had this growing up throughout all my childhood. And eventually like everything changed when I became 19. And at that time I was still hating on my Asian heritage. And I was like, I'm gonna learn, I'm gonna try and improve my Chinese for business purposes. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try and improve my Chinese and learn everything like that. And the thing about like when you try and learn a language, you need to really take a deep dive into it. And so as I was learning, at the time I was learning Mandarin, I was learning it. I really took a deep dive into the music, the culture, and then I explored Cantonese culture as a result of it. And I absolutely fell in love with it. I realized, holy crap, like the music is so good, the movies are so good. And through that whole experience of cultural, taking that deep dive, I grew to really love and appreciate my upbringing and my language.
Yeah, and this guy, he went from no Chinese music to only Chinese music.
Yeah.
So he only listens to Chinese music around the house
Yeah,
now. We're
like-
like, dude, you know, Chinese songs are mostly like kind of like sad. Like,
Yeah.
about love, right?
Maybe just sad all the time.
I had a legit like personality flip. It was like originally it was it was pretty hard rap, pretty like gangster stuff.
Yo, that's great.
and then okay. But now it's like really soft love songs. Yeah. So that was my big like cultural flip, and now I really appreciate. And I mean that's ultimately how this whole channel started. Because I had that cultural awakening, and so like we wanted to you're gonna grill me on everything. All right, and so we wanted to share that with more people, and so that they could have that cultural awakening.
Spiritual awakening. I think for myself, I had a very similar experience. There was always this rejection of Chinese culture. If you guys didn't know, I actually immigrated to Canada, so I was born in China. I don't really remember that much of my time there, except for that the toilets were holes, not the actual toilets themselves. And so I came here when I was in grade 1, 6 years old. And just right off the bat, it was, you're thrown into this new environment. And I think I was one of the only Chinese Asian kids in my class at that time. But when you're so young, you don't really, you can't really tell. But as I started growing older, I started realizing that like, the way that Asian people are portrayed, whether it be in movies or just things that like music I listen to, they weren't portrayed as cool ever. So I always had this idea in my head that Asian people are just not cool. So instead I gravitated a lot towards the hip hop culture. I wore do-rags when I was younger. I always really wanted to have like
this guy
Sharpie drawn tattoo.
Guy answered the door once. With the do-rag
on. I really thought I was like, man, Asian people are just not that cool. And I think that it wasn't until that I moved in grade 7 to this place called Markham, which people say is the equivalent of basically the most Asian area you can move into. And
is that when you met some cool Asian people like me?
No, he wasn't that cool when I first met him. But when I moved to Markham, what happened is it was only Asian actually, right? So I saw a spectrum of people. I saw Asian people that are really good at sports, Asian people who didn't care about school as much, et cetera, et cetera. And that's when I realized that like my idea of what an Asian person is and how they're uncool was actually just because there was not enough representation. And when I saw other people and like even lamer people like Edward, it made me really realize that, they come in all shapes and sizes and they have different hobbies. And, that really helped me out with my, my identity crisis. I didn't have an Asian awakening yet, but I'm excited to have one.
Yeah, I'm gonna give Mike a break and like not call him lame or anything in mind because I'm a nice guy. But for me, I had a struggle, but that was mostly due to like subtle bullying when I was a kid. Because I went to a school from grade 1 to 6, went to a school that was like 90% white. And then I remember there was this one experience where my mom always packed me, like she spent a lot of time making this great food for me for lunch, right? So one time she made me sushi. And I brought sushi to school and I opened my lunchbox and then like everyone was like, the second I opened the lunchbox, everyone was like, ew, what is that smell? And I was like, oh shoot. And I looked around, everyone had their Dunkaroos and stuff. And they were flexing on me, with their Lunchables. I'm not sure if you have
with their peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah. They're like, yo, because you watch TV shows like this, I'll treat my peanut butter sandwich for your like thing, right? And then I just had sushi and no one wanted it. And then this got to the point where I was like, yo, I'm just gonna, I would like open the lid, I would grab a sushi, put it in my mouth, and then close the lid, and then close my lunchbox on top of the lid, right? But it wasn't because like I was like ashamed of being Asian. It was just more so like I guess I was different and everyone looked at me different. But they didn't. It was just subtle bullying. They weren't like outright trying to like attack me or anything. Because I had some good friends that were non-Asian as well.
I think that's the worst though. I think those are like you can't address it, right? How are you supposed to address the bullying like that?
Yeah, but also on the flip side, that growing up, I lived with my cousins, my older cousins, and they were like hardcore into like C-pop and everything even before, like in the early 2000s. So I was already like jamming out like Raymond Lamb and stuff at home and watching TVB with my mom. So and then I'd see all these like cool Cantonese figures in these shows. They were all like cops, doctors, or lawyers, because that's what TVB is about. So that kind of balanced it out. But these little like remarks and stuff, they happened when I was younger, and they happened throughout my high school and university as well. And eventually, how I got over it was I realized that it was something that I just couldn't change. And it's a long process, but basically I realized that, there's no point of me fretting, like being upset about something that I really couldn't change. So I started to change my mindset and like think that it's actually a gift. Like I'm lucky to be what I am and how I was born, how I was. So yeah, so that's basically it. So not as tragic as Sheldon and Mike, but still a little bit.
I think all your stories are absolutely amazing, and I relate to aspects of each of your stories. Maybe not completely, but like for each individual, I really found some parts that I was like, whoa, I experienced that too. And I'm sure that many of our audience members have also experienced something similar.
Especially the do-rag, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
was
not that far.
He said it was a full tattoo.
Yeah.
And it was the postman.
Yeah, it was the postman.
No, but the lunchbox one, a lot of people like.
Yeah, for sure.
That
That
one
one
for
for
sure.
sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. But now it's like everyone wants Asian food. So
Yeah.
people like do like a 180
Yeah.
total flip. Like Asian food's bomb.
Yeah.
Sushi's great. So.
Now people would trade their peanut butter and jelly sandwich for the sushi.
Yeah, you realize it.
Yeah. So and then like speaking of like, now and today, like do you have any advice for people who, may be struggling with their own identity?
Yeah. So I guess the way I think about it and the way that I always thought about it was that well, I mean, there's two types of people who might be facing this problem. I think like one would be people who like just like outright don't want to be Asian, like Sheldon when he was younger. And then there may be people who are like, I'm Asian, I'm also American. I don't know which one I belong. I kind of feel in the middle, kind of like an outcast from both. I guess I'll just talk about the first one first, which is like people who might just feel like they don't like being Asian. So again, because of that bullying when I was younger, I kind of felt like that at times. And then that kind of like insecurity was replaced by another insecurity when I was 13. I was like 5'6" at that time, right? And then I was like, I want to be tall. I want to be tall, right? And then I was like, okay. I mean, it would get to the point where I went on these online calculators. It was like, insert your mom's height, insert your dad's height, and then, like insert how tall you are now and your age. And it comes out like and then it said I would be 5'8", 5'9", right? I'd be like, oh, awesome, great. But I never grew. I'm still 5'6" right now. So I was struggling with this in like when I was 13 and 14. And then eventually I just kind of like accepted the fact that, I just wasn't going to grow. So there's no point of beating myself up over it. And then I was like, wait, if I can accept this for height, why can't I just apply the same logic for being Asian, right? Mm-hmm. And then I was like, okay. And then I started thinking about it differently. I was like, why would I deliberately try to make myself unhappy for something I can't change? Instead, I might as well just focus on stuff that I can change and actually do things to make my life better. So I then realized that, the pain that I was feeling wasn't actually from the fact of me being Asian or short. It was from my perception of how I viewed myself because I was Asian and I was short. And that was like a huge moment for me. That completely changed everything because with that realization, I kind of started to actively do things that would change my belief. And I started like, I was like 16 at the time. I started like rolling down my windows and just blasting Cantonese music as I was driving. I went back to TVB, watched a bunch with my mom. I started asking her about her stories when she was younger and all these different things. And then it slowly got me to view being Asian as like an actually benefit now. I mean, like it got to the point where I was in France and Switzerland, I was like, yo, everyone here is not Chinese, which means that I'm exotic. And I was like, yo, this is pretty cool, right? And then it got to that point, and then obviously in here now I'm talking to you guys as this event for Cantonese speakers and for Asian people. And so that kind of mindset, that shift in mindset got me really far, and that's what I would kind of promote as well. Oh, there's a funny story, not really a funny story, but it's a story about Thomas Edison. And I know you guys are gonna make fun of me because I always go on a tangent and tell these stories. But basically, the guy who invented light bulb, Thomas Edison, back in like 1914, his factory was on fire and all his work was burning up and everything, right? So he was standing outside watching everything burn up, all the work that he ever worked on, and he's losing millions of dollars. And he was standing with his son, and he looked at his son, and you would think that like he'd be crying and stuff, but he looked at his son and was like, son, go get your mom because they'll never see a fire like this ever again in her life. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that gave me shivers because I was like, you know, that is the epitome of being like, okay, I can't change anything. Like, what's he gonna do? Like, grab a bucket of water and splash on it? Like, I can't change anything, so let me make the most of it and enjoy it. So I think that's what the mindset to have for anything that you don't want to be that you are, right? You
Start a
can't change
fire.
it.
Start a fire and call your parents over to look at it
Right.
and
You guys-
appreciate it.
But no, I think I
agree.
with that story. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
To share a little personal experience for myself, I think that out of the three of us, definitely, I feel like was most ashamed and probably still struggle with that battle of identity to today. And from personal experience, I think the turning point for me was actually going back to China. Up until that point, I definitely gravitated more towards the hip hop culture, wearing do-rags and drawing Sharpies on my arm. But up until the point I actually went to China, I actually was truly able to immerse myself in the culture. So I think I think Asian Americans like us or Asian Canadians like us often are in this kind of in-between stage of, am I Chinese or am I American, right? And for me growing up, because of the lack of representation and everything, I definitely gravitated more towards being westernized. But I think that one of the things that everybody can do, and one of the more powerful things, is actually community. So things like subtle Asian traits. I grew up watching a lot of Wong Fu and stuff, really helped me personally a lot. So these clubs that you guys have, Chinese student associations, Cantonese clubs like that, I think is really helpful because for the majority of the people, it just brings you together and helps you brings you together with people that are also sharing the same pain. And once you guys come together, it just really, solidifies in your head that, there's people going through what I'm going through, and it gives you that kind of peace of mind. So I think that's community is a big thing.
I think personally, I brought up earlier how it's like a two-folded thing, how there is, one is I hate being Asian, and the other is, am I Asian or am I American? Like, what am I?
Yeah.
And I think it's a pretty normal thing to feel, because I actually felt that a lot as a kid, especially because I would go back to, say, Hong Kong, for instance, and they'd be like, why is your Cantonese so shit? And then I would be here, and then they'd be like, obviously, you look at TV, you look at the media, no one looks like you. And so you kind of feel like this outcast from both worlds inevitably. And I think a lot of that really changed once I graduated from high school, because I feel like when you are in elementary school and high school, you're in this very closed off environment where people really focus and, pick on these differences. Once you get past that stage and you realize that, not every quote unquote American or Canadian is necessarily racist, or is not necessarily mean, or is not necessarily like, oh, you're Chinese looking, so you don't belong in this group. And once you realize that at the same time, not everyone in Asia is like, oh, your Chinese sucks, you don't belong as part of us, then I think, that really changed my mindset a lot. And I realized that, hey, I'm just both. I'm Asian and I'm American and I'm Canadian at the same time. And so, why can't I make that into a good thing? The good thing is I actually get to enjoy parts of both cultures. I get to enjoy both worlds. At the same time, I can also share, my Western side with my, my family in the Eastern side, the friends I have over there, and vice versa. So I think, when you change that mindset and you say, embrace ultimately being, Asian American, I think that will really help empower a lot when it comes to accepting your identity.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people who are POC and they grow up in somewhere that isn't their heritage country, a lot of people are like, oh, it feels like there's two different worlds that I'm living in. And that was something I really related to. And even though I didn't personally travel back to China a lot and see my family from mainland China, I even felt that just sometimes speaking with my parents, because I was like, I don't really know how to convey what I want to say. I know it in English perfectly fine, but I don't know how to say it in Cantonese. So this kind of leads into, how did your family's expectations affect your own identity and your own expectations?
Yeah, sure. Heather's crying right now. It's okay, man.
It's very deep. I didn't blow my nose.
But so I think that for myself, I definitely came from more of a traditional background. My parents are very conservative and they hold a lot of traditional Chinese values. And I think that there is a very good side, but there's also a very straining side to it. I think that it's something that slowly creeps up on you, and you don't really notice it. I think that actually impacts a lot of your surroundings, your environments, who you make friends with, what kind of interests your hobbies are. For example, when I was in grade 6, I always thought like playing the guitar was the coolest thing. And then my mom made me choose between violin or piano because playing the guitar is not I don't know, playing guitar, I guess in her head was like, I'm gonna become a rock star or something like that. So I had to choose between piano or violin, and I really didn't have a choice because she bought me a violin, and I said, okay, I'm gonna play the violin.
But I was thinking, there's no like really famous Chinese guitar players that you can think of.
Yeah,
right?
true.
I can think
true.
like Lang Lang.
Lang, right?
And then there's like Ray Chen for violin.
Yeah. I mean, I could have done something with the guitar. I felt like, but the point being is that I think that a lot of it really shapes your beliefs, shapes your interest, and who you become friends with. And I think that this is something that is always pressing up on you. And then like being academically inclined, your friends are definitely going to be also a little more academically inclined. So it's not a good or bad thing, but it's something I feel like people discount and is not brought into attention. But I think that parental expectations, especially cultural and family expectations, impacts people more than they think.
It's funny how you brought up how you choose between like violin and piano.
Yeah.
Because I think everyone relates to having like a choice between two things they don't want. For me, I have to choose between piano and abacus.
No, okay. It's not bad.
So they're so like different, dude.
No. It's weird.
Which one did you choose?
I chose abacus.
Really, not piano?
Yes.
No, wait, didn't you say you regret it?
I mean, abacus does not impress anyone. It's not like
You should get the
anyone
girls
else-
that-
wow, right? But no, I mean,
I was really impressed.
Thank you. But I mean, since I was a kid, I mean, I think my family always had a lot of very like really high pressure. I think a lot of people who grew up in like an Asian household can agree, especially like when your parents have these crazy high expectations about what they expect from school. I was a very typical Asian upbringing. I had like extra classes every single day of the week. I went to Kumon. I don't know if you guys have Kumon. You guys have Kumon over there, right?
Yeah.
Kumon.
I worked at
It's
a
weird how
Kumon.
Like the logo is not a smiley face, but it's like a disappointed like FML kind of face. And so I had a lot of pressure from my family growing up about school, and it actually got to the point where in high school I actually cried about I got an 88 instead of a 90 in English, and I cried. And then
wait, did you get 85?
I got an 88, and then they laughed at me for a long time.
Wait, he's not telling the full story, okay? The full story is that I'm sitting in class. I'm not in Sean's class. I'm in a different class, right? And then we're getting our grades and everything. And then all of a sudden there's a knock on the door, right? And then the whole class, like 30 people, and the teacher look at the door. And then this guy walks in, right? And he's got tears streaming down his eyes. He walks into my class. He's like, Edward, we gotta talk. And then I'm like, yo, what the heck happened, right? Like once I go through and he pulls me on the hallway, everyone's like judging us now. And he's like, Edward, I got an 88. And then I look back at the classroom, everyone's just staring at us. I'm like, yo, I'm kind of embarrassed to be your friend.
Was he bawling?
He was bawling, dude. I was embarrassed to be your friend.
Yeah.
So, there's a little booger point on his nose. It was not cool.
Like the ones where you
like I mean, so I guess inevitably like my family put a lot of expectations on me growing up, and I think when I look back in hindsight, I actually view it as a good thing, because now that my parents don't have as high expectations for me, like they don't like put as much pressure on me anymore once school finished. Now like I kind of kept that same mentality, and now it's like I have a lot of high expectations for myself. So I actually think that what is frequently seen as this like very toxic upbringing, which in other cases it can be, but I feel like when I look back on it in hindsight, I actually feel like it was a pretty beneficial, because now I have I expect a lot from myself, and I work hard, and I think that's what that kind of familial upbringing brought for me. So.
But I think you should also tell them the fact that you actually did get your grade improved by crying.
Oh yeah. No. So okay. So I didn't like cry and then like Okay, basically what happened was I cried and then I scoured through all my assignments for any mistake I could find, and then I found one, and then I gave him a 90. Yeah.
And it was a running joke that for every one tear Sheldon cries, his percent goes up 1%.
Yeah.
It was very good. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good times.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah, definitely there's a lot of like expectations. I think my family story is a little bit different. So I have that like Asian culture aspect. My mom was a refugee from China. She brought that over, brought those hard expectations. But also my childhood growing up, it was pretty rough and pretty broken because ever since I was like 2 or 1, my dad was cheating on my mom in Hong Kong, and my mom and my sister and I were here in Canada. And my mom would get me to be on the phone, like call him, like cry and tell him to like come back to us and everything. And then this went on for many, many years. Like it's like messing up my sister and my head. And then eventually when we're like 8, I think it was 8 or 9, my parents finally divorced. And my mom had found out that, my dad had an entire family going on there in Hong Kong. And I have stepsisters and stepbrothers and this stepmom. And I remember the day my mom came home, she looked at me and she was like, okay, Edward, you need to be great, which means in her eyes rich, so you can prove to your dad that he made the wrong choice. He left the wrong family, because it was basically a toss-up between like go this family or that family, right? So then I was kind of like used as like a tool for revenge for my mom, so to speak, because she was like, you need to like represent me and this side of the family to prove that like he made the wrong choice. So then I had this expectation, like this weight on my shoulder growing up my entire life, and that led to university, me studying something that I didn't really want to do, and then all the way to starting YouTube with my friends, and then quitting my full-time paying job at that time, which was basically my mom's dream. So basically you can imagine how she felt. Like she's like, I raised this kid, I went through all these hard struggles and everything, and he finally got what I wanted him to get, and then he just like willingly throws it away, right? Like if you watch that video, she was like, oh, did you get fired? I think she would be much more happy if I got fired. Like she'd be like, okay, at least it's not his fault. But now he's just doing something completely stupid and like willingly quitting his job. So there was that expectation all throughout my life. And then recently it's gone a little better now because I've been working with my mom. I've been changing the way I think about things and like really not giving up on the bond that I have with her. So yeah, but essentially my story is that I had the expectation of the culture plus the expectation of the divorce and the expectation of, I guess, my mom's pride on the line as well. So I mean, a lot of you guys might have experienced the same thing too, because I know divorce is not that uncommon of a thing. So, but yeah, that's my story.
It's all
Really
very. Oh,
You
you
go,
Jess.
Jess.
Sorry. No, it's cool.
No, I definitely relate. Like I think it's really difficult managing, your family's expectations, but also like doing what you want. Like for you guys, that's starting your own YouTube channel as opposed to, like working at your full-time job. And as I'm about to graduate and like move on to a full-time job, which is definitely something that my parents are really proud of, really want me to do that, but also just trying to make sure that you can find your own happiness while also like making sure that your family's happy and like with your choice. And kind of going along with the same topic on family, did you guys ever feel that there were a cultural or language barrier between you and your families? And if so, how did you deal with that?
To be quite honest, I think in terms of the language barrier, I was personally, for me, I didn't feel that as much. I think that my parents spoke to me they really made an effort to preserve the language and pass that down. So they would come home and speak to me in Mandarin. And then I think that, like when I'm at home, I just talk to them in Mandarin now. And that's something that I'm actually very thankful for from my parents. I think the biggest thing was definitely for me, cultural barriers. Coming in, like I said before, I was so into this kind of hip hop, like culture, and they coming from China, for them, it was like eye-opening. Like I was always the tattoos, and they will always be like, oh, don't get tattoos. And I always be like, oh, I want to play basketball, I want to be a basketball player. They're like, oh, you're too short. So there's always this kind of there was always this kind of a barrier in terms of culture.
You're also not that good. So
that's said by the worst players here. But the point being was that there was always this kind of like cultural barrier. and I think that it really affected me because I felt like they never understood me, and then for them, I always felt like they were doing that to be controlling. It wasn't until I think we quit our jobs when we made the video that we were talking about that we quit our jobs that I really felt this feeling, because if you guys watch the video that we put out, my parents were very disappointed because my dad picked up the phone. So that's when I know that my parents are very disappointed. Actually, my mom picked up the phone and then he gave it to my dad. So that's when I was like, okay, yeah, things are getting real now. And so that's when he kind of broke it down, and he was talking about how, you know, you have this perfectly stable job and you're throwing this all away to pursue and make some videos online. And it was very hard for me because I always wanted to make my parents proud, and for them to sacrifice so much to come to Canada, it felt like I was breaking their heart, and you know, it just felt really, really shitty. But after doing that, and after doing that video, we actually worked really, really hard, right? And slowly I saw my parents actually adjust to this. They wouldn't, my mom would never say it outright. She would just kind of be like, oh, you know, how's your video going along? Or like, hey, I watched last week's episode. And those little things were always very sweet to me, because I was like, oh, maybe she's coming around. And I think that it was a year after where she really kind of, you know, really started even just showing off our videos to her friends. And what that showed me, at least, was that your parents will always, even though they don't say it, if you read their actions, they will always love you, and your happiness is probably most important to them. So if you go about faking your happiness and you're actually really sad in the inside, I think that that's very detrimental. And I think that you should always keep in your head that my parents foremost want me to be happy above everything else. So that's something that I think through action and just sheer will, that is how I dealt with the issue. Yeah.
I think the big cultural barrier for, I guess, a lot of us growing up is this juggle between, you know, the Western mindset of, you know, pursue what you want and, you know, go for what makes you happy, yeah, versus the Eastern mindset of, you know, go for what is safe, what is stable, and what is really secure. And for me, you know, that was really prevalent through my life. I remember my mom, she was the one who actually influenced me to get into engineering. What she did was she brought me to talk to a bunch of different professionals, but they were all engineers, and they were like, "Tell my son my engineering is so good." And so eventually I got into engineering, and I realized that I absolutely hated it, and I complained to my mom about it all the time, saying how I wanted to switch, but you know, she didn't let me, and she didn't understand this concept of, you know, you should be going for, or this Western concept of, you know, go for what you want, you know, pursue your passions. And to be fair, I mean, that is something that, given her upbringing, given the way they were raised, I completely understand. And at the end of the day, you know, I realized that, you know, while it is very easy to put the blame all on my parents and say, oh, you know, it's because, you know, they don't want me to go for happiness and all they care about stability. You know, there is a lot that is still under my control. For instance, like what I do in my free time. And so what I did during my free time was I decided to try different things and see what else I could figure out while stacking on top of engineering. And so I realized that, you know, if you're smart about it and you really, you know, you while juggling school, engineering, and all that stuff, you know, use that free time to really pursue other things, and eventually you can make something work. And for me, I just kept trying different things on my free time, and eventually I stumbled onto YouTube, and then that's how I overcame this cultural barrier of, you know, stability, pursuing stability, and eventually and doing what you love.
So what you're saying is, when your parents want you to do one of two things, you should just do both of them.
Yeah. What Sheldon's saying is, if you want to be an athlete, you should be a doctor first and then an athlete. Yeah, just make sure you get your MBA and be the highest level achieving academic.
Basically, Jeremy Lin.
Yeah. No, but you're saying do it in a smart way.
Yeah, doing a smart way, because like inevitably, like, you know, like your family, I'm sure it's so. I hear all these like Western gurus say like, just quit your job, pursue your passion, and I don't think that is realistic for a lot of us, because no, I mean, there's a lot more than that. You know, our lives are not just for ourselves. It's also our parents, right? Our family, who we truly love. So
we should change that to work your jobs and your passion, right?
Well, I mean, like we didn't quit our jobs until we had like a good amount, like a good amount of like people watching us. Or,
Exactly.
you know, I
Until
think it would
we
be
had
foolish.
foundation.
It'd be kind of silly to quit your job at like 0 subscribers.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, Mike, what are you saying? You're saying something about how your parents just want you to be happy. I do agree with that, but I also think that, you know, sometimes your parents really think that the only way for you to be happy is for you to listen to what they believe in. So it's like one of those things where ultimately that's what they feel, I feel, but then the way they go about it is something that is very different. I feel a lot of you guys might be facing the same way. Like, you know, your parents want the best for you, but it's really hard to tell them like, hey, look, this is what's best for me, because they have their own idea of what's best for you, right? Like as a parent, you would never want to see your kid directly walk into a hole. You know, you have the wisdom and you have the years of experience to guide them. So I do understand where they're coming from. Let me ask a question. So what was the question? Whether or not the language. Okay, there was never a language barrier because my mom and I always just spoke in Cantonese. We watched a lot of TVB together, a lot of dramas. I learned a lot about legal lingo because, you know, it was and there's TVB lawyer dramas and everything. And we always listen to Chinese music together and stuff like that too. But what was a conflict was the fact that, you know, in Chinese culture, there's more of a focus on like conservatism and like just to be playing it safe and playing the safe route. And obviously that's what my mom wanted for me. And there's also the element of like bringing honor to your family, like Mulan, right?
Face, right? Face.
Yeah, face to your family, right? And
face.
that's what I had on me as well, because I had to bring face to my mom's family, and show my dad that he was wrong for leaving us. But all of this, and then after I quit my job and decided to do YouTube full time with Sheldon and Mike, this like all really surfaced up, you know, like it became really serious. Like I would go home and she wouldn't talk to me. Like we would have dinner and then like she wouldn't look at me, you know, it was bad. So the way I handled this was that I really took my time to understand where she was coming from. Because I think it's very easy for us when we're faced with that kind of problem to just view her as like the enemy and like, oh, you're so close-minded. Like you're so like living in the old days. You don't know, like you don't understand. But at the same time, like this is another person. So they probably are thinking the exact same thing as you. Like you're so naive, you're so close-minded. You don't understand the struggles you're going to go through and all that stuff. So I took my time to really empathize with her. I put a lot of responsibility on myself as well. I didn't blame her for anything. I looked at my beliefs that I was having, the belief that my mom is close-minded, stubborn, and I reevaluated if those were actually true, or if it was just true in certain circumstances. Like I didn't make a judgment on her character based on her action. I think every action should be viewed as an individual and not exactly like, okay, this character is someone bad, right? So I did that, and through all this, I really changed the way I thought of it all, and I changed the way that I could communicate with her. I changed the way that our conversations went. I realized when a conversation was going south and I just like dipped, or like I brought up something else and then I went back at a different time. I didn't let myself get trapped into like a fighting mentality. Yeah. Exactly what it was. And then I also added a bunch of other stuff that I thought of that would work. So I was like, okay, if the Chinese culture is this, then what if I try to use that for my advantage? So something I did was like, you know, Chinese culture always values authority. So I was like, okay, when I tell my mom something, I don't have authority, which means that she doesn't believe me, which is obviously what was happening then, right? So I was like, what if I just say everything I want to say, but I say some kind of professional said it about me, right? and then like, you know, like when your mom tells you the WeChat articles and you're just like, yo, this doctor said this, so you got to do it. But it doesn't matter what the doctor is telling you to do, but the fact is that he's a doctor or she's a doctor in front of their name, right? Yeah. So that authority in Chinese culture commands respect. Right? So I was like, okay, what if I do this? And I did that. I did a bunch of different like tactics and little tricks and stuff. And then I slowly got her to kind of like view this is not too bad. And then now we have a much better relationship.
Did you make up doctor names?
No, I was just like, instead of saying
Dr. Arson Trinkle with a PhD in
okay, for example,
playing video games.
Instead of saying like, oh, we're doing a good job. I would be like, oh, the sponsor really likes what we do. Like they think we're doing a great job. You know? It's like, oh, whoa, professionals are saying they do a good job. Whoa, you know? Like, so it's like, I started doing a bunch of this stuff. But the fundamental thing was I changed the way I thought of this. I didn't think of it as a fight. I thought of it as, you know, a cooperative thing that I really had to pull my part in as well. And that's how I dealt with the cultural differences. I don't really view it as an obstacle now. I view it as, if anything, it could be a benefit. So so we look at it.
The biggest thing that really sticks out to me is whenever I have like little minor arguments with my mother, we don't really resolve it in words as Asian families don't. And it will be like, we'll like be quiet, we won't really talk to each other. And then the next day it's like giving you food. And it's like that's how you always resolve a fight or something. And I really realized that even if I wanted to, I don't have the language capabilities to like resolve a fight in Cantonese with my mother. Like I could say it in English, of course, but how much of that would she really grasp? So it makes me like really question, because I don't know much Cantonese. It's much more of a Chinglish that I'm speaking. I was like, what do you guys think about Cantonese being a dying language? And how do you regard language as a part of your identity, if you do?
I first of all want to say that I guess so. Cantonese is a huge part of my identity. Like it's a part of my identity that I really take to my heart. And like I absolutely adore Cantonese culture and language, food, all of that. And at the same time, you know, I totally understand where this narrative that Cantonese is a dying language comes from. Where I see it a lot because of the fact that, you know, where it was once like a very like beneficial kind of business language, inevitably, you know, now that's been replaced by Mandarin. Mandarin is you know, the Chinese language to learn for business. So it's like, what use does Cantonese have anymore? I think, but I still, in my heart, I very strongly dislike this Cantonese is a dying language thing, because, you know, when you say it's a dying language, I feel like, why would anyone want to learn a dying language? Why would anyone, you know, for instance, you know, a lot of you might not be able to that fluent in Cantonese. Why would you want to improve your skills in a dying language? And I think back to when I was a kid. I don't know what you guys, but I absolutely loved anime. And I actually think the background of this Yamcha thing, it looks like it was inspired by anime. But anyway,
your name, right?
Yeah, your name. I'm pretty sure it was. But anyway, so I loved anime to the point where, you know, I actually wanted to learn Japanese at one point. And it wasn't for, you know, business or for anything like that. It was mainly for interest in the culture. And the same way, I think so many people want to learn Korean today because there's so much love around K-pop, not because it's going to benefit their resume for business. And so this, like, Cantonese culture is so rich and so beautiful. Like the songs are so beautiful, the music, the movies, you know, it's so like, there are a lot of songs that exist in Mandarin and Cantonese. Like for example, there's a song by Eason Chen, Fusi Sanha. But like the lyrics in Cantonese are really rich compared to the Mandarin one. But anyway, so I think the main point is that like, it's like a language is not necessarily like a extinct species, like a panda, you know, like
panda's not extinct though.
Okay, fine. Okay, about a dying species. But by saying it's dying, I think it motivates less people to learn. I think instead we should focus on, you know, all the beauty of the culture and language. I think that'll motivate more people to, you know, learn, because in reality, there are so many potential speakers. Like there's so many different Cantonese Americans, Cantonese Canadians who can, you know, enrich, you know, such as I guess I did, not to whatever, but you know, I regained that interest in the language and I really want to learn, not because I want to do business, but because I really love the culture and language. And I think a lot of people, especially here, could become those potential speakers of that language and really, I guess, save it.
Yeah.
Not save it, but promote it.
What's really interesting for me is growing up here, and when I first moved to Markham, I thought that everybody spoke Cantonese. Well, everybody around me did speak Cantonese. You guys spoke Cantonese, a lot of my friends. So I thought that Cantonese was actually the most popular like dialect of Chinese, right? Well, like Chinese. So for me, it was like, I was like, damn, I was like, I really did want to learn Cantonese because everybody around me spoke it. When you go to restaurants, everybody's speaking it too. So I think that now, like starting this channel and doing this YouTube actually gave me a newfound appreciation for Cantonese. And I think that as a Mandarin speaker, like as a Mandarin speaker, it's something that is very is part of the Chinese culture, and I think that I encourage a lot of other Mandarin speakers to try and give it a shot as well. I think that language is actually just kind of like a key, and the lock is kind of like the culture. So without the key, you can't really fully indulge in the culture, right? So what?
No, the key indulging in the walk is kind
Oh,
of funny.
key indulging in a walk. So no, you unlock the culture with the key. Is what I'm saying.
I'm not sure I'm like
So-
with that.
No. So no, that's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is after actually, you know, if you guys didn't, I did a video where I spoke Cantonese to save my relationship. After doing that video, I actually, you know, like I actually feel a little more confident ordering in Cantonese at a lot of diners and restaurants and stuff like that. So I think that I think that is very, you know, this channel has helped me a lot in that sense.
You also have to learn Cantonese because then you would not be able to make any of the food that we make you make, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, not like it's good to start.
But I can't be good at it though, because or else then, you know.
Yeah, then you're too good. Okay, my experience with this. Okay, so I think that language, like Sheldon was talking about, like the utility of language is one thing, but another thing is connecting with the people. And like, you ever go into like, I don't know if you guys speak like second languages or whatever, you ever go into like a place where you speak to somebody in their own language and they treat you completely different? It's not because like they're racist or something. It just might be because that they don't know how to communicate with you in another language. So like when I go and I speak Cantonese to some like popos and like gongongs in different places, like they like, oh, you know, like I can finally talk to this young kid. It's nice of him to like start the conversation in Cantonese. So a lot of these experiences are actually really rewarding, and that's like why I love the language so much. It's also a huge part of my identity ever since I was young. I was also going to bring up the point about like in pop culture, but Sheldon already stole it. But I've been actually studying about this, okay? So I even have the stats here. Korean speakers are 77 million native worldwide speakers, and Cantonese is 73 million. So it's not that far off. But like Sheldon said, K-pop is just so prevalent in like pop culture and everything, and everyone wants to learn it. So maybe that's something we could do in the future, you know, with Kento Mando. It's like, yo, what if we get on Netflix and make like a Cantonese song, drop a Cantonese thing, you know?
I remember when I went to Beijing last year. It was my first time ever, but the first cab that I got into a cab, and this guy was playing this Cantonese song. It's called Hey Fun Lei, right? And immediately I was like, oh shit, I know this song, right? And then he was like, his eyes lit up, and he was like, oh, I've been trying to learn Cantonese. And it's like, for this guy, I mean, there's probably zero utility from him learning Cantonese, but just his love for the culture, the music, the movies, you know, it made him want to learn. He was so excited to practice with me.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that's the narrative that I think needs to change, I think, because I know this is a very popular narrative in the Cantonese community. And I think that if we instead focus on promoting, you know, the amazing parts of the culture, which you guys do with, like, I mean, music you guys played before the show is amazing. But I think if we focus on that, then I think that will encourage a lot more people to speak the language and to, you know, learn it.
Yeah. So like you make the Cantonese crash landing on you, right?
Yeah. Cantonese crash landing on you.
You put that on Netflix, and then like everyone watches it.
Exactly.
And then like, yo, what is this cool language, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's super cool. Never knew Cantonese guys be so romantic.
Yo, there is no better way to like talk crap about someone than in Cantonese. Like, like roast someone, Cantonese is the best way. So
why? No, I mean, well, if you succeed at making everyone learn Cantonese, then that's no longer going to be the case because everyone's going to know you're roasting them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've definitely had a horrible experience where I was talking bad about some people in Cantonese, and then turns out they were like, we understand you. We're like, we know Mandarin and Cantonese actually. And I was like, I'm so sorry. My bad.
Wow, that's rough. Just saying.
It really was.
Okay, so tying it back to the theme of the show of identity and like your own voice, like how do you think you've been able to, you know, use your voice or like your influence or even your platform to create like a positive impact? And like how do you like hope to like continue to do so in like in the future?
So going back to when I said that, you know, I grew up kind of hating my whole Asian identity. And then at some point, you know, I decided that, you know, I was going to learn Mandarin for business purposes. And then through that journey, I ended up figuring out that, hey, I love my Cantonese culture. I love Chinese culture as a whole. There's so much to explore. And so when we first made this channel, it was actually meant to help other Asian Americans improve their Chinese, whether it's Cantonese or Mandarin. And so that was one of the really big goals early on. And because that whole experience of doing that really provides so much like joy into my life. And it brought so much acceptance into my life of my identity. And so, to this day, we still carry on with that that idea of, hey, like let's promote Chinese culture, let's promote Chinese culture as a whole and language to encourage more people to speak and to rediscover this part of themselves, because that did so much for our confidence, the way our outlook on life, and the way we connect with our families. And I think that, through our videos, through a lot of different themes that we have throughout the channel, we are looking to continue doing that.
So when Sheldon started out by, like he said, by trying to teach Cantonese, and then when I joined Cantomando, we kind of shifted and started making skits. And for me personally, I think one of the most gratifying things is breaking barriers through humor, where you guys can, I think the subtle Asian traits meme community is a prime example of this, where you just feel so related. You feel like this meme is like speaking to me only. The one that I can think of that always gets to me is like how Asian moms always eat filet at McDonald's. Filet of fish at McDonald's. Always. That's like my mom's, the only thing my mom eats.
I did not know that was a thing that everyone experienced.
Yeah, I did not know either.
The older I get, the more I realize it's actually probably the best thing.
Really?
Yeah. It actually is the best thing with McDonald's.
Yeah, but and anyways, going back to the point was I think that one of the goals that we had is how do we break barriers, and how do we do this in an accessible way, but also how do we do this in a humorous way? And I think that I think that that's one of the things that we always, at the forefront of what we try to do, is that we're not here to just give a speech or lecture you guys on how to do this or that. It's like we want to do it in a way where you guys have entertainment. There's entertainment factor. There's a hilarious, like it's funny, but also it makes you think and reminisce about the good moments, and makes you kind of really attach yourself to your culture and be really proud of that. So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, Mike covered laughter, Sheldon covered Chinese. I guess the last thing, a bunch of last things, is, I mean, the reason why we're here talking to you right now, right? It's like we went from Chinese to laughter to now we're like, it seems like we're inspiring people to learn more about their culture, and like people are asking me about family problems, and it's like there's a whole bunch of stuff that it seems that we can help with people now, like help people with. So, like now we're providing, well, I'd like to feel that we're providing more value than just Chinese and laughter, but also like we can come to us with how did you deal with this with your parents, how did you deal with that, these cultural barriers. So, and also we create a community, we want to create a community at least, that where people can go to talk about their experiences, specifically being Asian American or Asian growing up in Western countries. So that's something else that I feel like we've been using our channel for as well.
Yeah. And
was it
the last part? Second part of the question was,
and how do you hope to continue to do so? I think that, to be quite honest, I think that if you guys watched our was it the last video or the one before that?
The one before that.
It was the one before. We made a video basically addressing a lot of the things. Being a content creator and constantly thinking of ideas is actually really hard, and we've never been a channel that was super vulnerable. So that was one video where we really got to get a lot of things off our chest, which is actually the name of the video.
So to give you guys context, like when we first began this channel, we had those, we wanted to promote all those things, and over time, having feeling the pressure of being, doing YouTube full time, a lot of pressure to produce, like to get views, and also like to pay rent and stuff. And so we started to shift our mentality towards just, like how do you survive? And so we kind of lost like vision of that direction, but now we're trying to get that back and really focus on, those pillars that we mentioned today, and what, how we want to be able to use our platform to influence and have a voice.
Yeah. I mean, like, we want to basically like show a side of us that's a bit different than just like laughing all the time, right? Because I think that we have a lot of interesting insights that we can share with the world to help out, and we like to do that in our videos as well, not just at these events that you guys invite us to. So I guess that's the way we're looking like forward, and then what we can do moving forward. And that series is going to be called Dear Cantomando. So when people send us emails or letters to our PO box, we're going to open them and then like see what you guys write, what questions you have, and then we're going to answer them on these videos. So hopefully that's another way we can help people in this world.
Yeah, so definitely. I think that like, speaking of like inspiration and stuff like that, I think that for, a lot of people these days, especially having like you guys like out there on the internet and having people like, see your content and, what you're embracing and showing the community. I think that having kind of that like that role model like there in a way, I think that a lot of people find that, especially in our audience, I think that a lot of people find that inspiring, and having that like presence there is definitely a good,
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
thing
So
to
how we
have.
want like more than the presence and actually like give you guys more solid stuff instead of just laughter. We'll give you laughter too. Like we'll make funny videos. Not going to stop making funny videos.
That's very like it's like it makes us feel really good to hear that, because I mean we just started off like just making videos for fun, and so to hear that from you means a lot.
Even being out here today, just speaking in front of everybody.
Thank you everyone for coming out.
Yeah, knowing that we could potentially make an impact here or there, whether small or big. Is
hopefully
very
Edward's
important
Thomas
to us.
Edison story.
That's it.
Little Thomas Edison.
Look, if I had more time, I would tell that with more like lead up and stuff.
Okay, fine.
But,
Okay,
like,
fine.
But then I had
You
to
could
just,
tell
like,
it in a
cut to the
video.
chase.
Really
That's
cut to the
true.
chase.
Yeah. So transitioning. So on a more serious note, this is gonna be the last question. But how do you guys use your voice to order dim sum? Huh? Jokes.
It's something. This is. So the key to using your voice to order dim sum is you just have to yell at the top of your lungs.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is not some kind of like high end like Italian restaurant, right? You just have to yell, like otherwise no one's gonna hear you. So you'd be like, "Why God, still my!" So you start yelling like this, and hopefully they see you, and they'll come over and give you.
See, I take quite a different approach. I take the complimentary approach. So I actually got this from when I went back in China. When I was in China, is that every time somebody wants to sell something to you, they'll add 美女 or 帅哥,
which is lang zai or lang zai.
Yeah, behind what they're saying. So I actually just be like, can I have this 帅哥 or can I have this 靓女 美女, right?
Yeah.
So that's my approach, the complimentary approach.
The thing is, you put that compliment out. It's weird because in the culture they put that out for anyone.
Yeah.
It's like me. Am I really lang zai? No, but that's what we call you.
Then you want to help them. Like,
you feel so good in that moment, right?
The
You're
thing
like,
is that
whoa.
if you do this too much, then anyone who doesn't say that doesn't get service. So then everyone has to say. Then you have to start upping each other. Then you say, world's most menu, right?
Yeah, world's most
She's doing
menu.
menu, right?
The funniest thing is actually if you look at reviews for Chinese restaurants on like Google or Yelp or something like that, there always some comment being like, "Oh, they definitely have a preference for Chinese customers because we were sitting there at our table for 20 minutes and no one came." And I was like, "Yo, it's because you didn't freaking call out like what?"
No, it's because they didn't call them menu.
Yeah, they call them menu. They don't know. They don't know.
Call them menu.
They think it's the same as some other restaurant where you just sit there and they come.
You gotta compliment them.
You gotta compliment them. For me, I just I just kind of like put on my hand. I try to make like subtle eye contact with the waiter, with the person, little cart lady. And then I'll be like, hopefully they'll look at me, and then hopefully they see my hand.
Basically, he does the ABC way.
The ABC
the subtle, polite.
Polite. And then you starve to death, right?
Yeah,
polite way
starve to death.
Yeah.
By doing that, they don't see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely do what you do, Sheldon. Like, I'm too scared. I'm just like, can I get that? And my mom is like, why? And she goes like, all like the lang loi, how am I being? And she asks us for like the ones in the bottom because it's like hotter and it's extra steamy as opposed to the ones on top. And she always gets like the best pieces. But yeah, so thank you guys for demonstrating how you guys order dim sum. To give you guys a quick little break, we're going to be hosting a short intermission game, and we're going to teach you guys some dishes that's served during dim sum.
Sounds good. See you soon.
Okay, so in this game, we're going to start off by showing you guys all a picture, and then a poll will come up, and you can pick the dim sum that you think it is. There's going to be a total of 6 rounds, and after each round, we'll talk a little bit about each dish. But before jumping in, we wanted to explain the phrase yam cha. So yam cha directly translates to drink tea, and it is usually said in reference to having dim sum. This is also what our annual culture show is named after, because we wanted it to represent a sense of family and just overall enjoying quality time together. So with that being said, we also wanted to teach you guys how to order dim sum, which I think Handsome Amanda already briefly mentioned earlier, but here's what you would say. So to say excuse me, you would say goi, which is pretty simple. If you want to ask, can I have a blank, you would say hom hoi being or yafan. and then you can get an order of whatever you want. So for example, if you want siu mai, you can ask 可唔可以俾我一份燒賣, and then you'll just get it. Or if you don't know what's in the cart, you can ask, what do you have? Or 你有乜嘢? However, if you really can't remember this, it's totally okay because you can just point out to whatever you want in the cart and the nice ladies will just bring it over to you. So now that you guys know how to order dim sum, let's move on to the guessing game.
Now, on to round one. We'll be starting off easy and progressively, we're going to make it harder as it goes. So for the first one, what do you think this is? And your options are egg tart, dan tat, Portuguese egg tart, po tat, custard tart, nayao tat, or lemon tart, ling mong tat. It is also our club logo, which means now is a good time for everyone to follow at Club Cantonese on Facebook, or you can search up Club Cantonese at Brandeis on Facebook, or C2B Brandeis on Instagram if you haven't done so already. And we'll give it a couple more seconds to let everyone filter through and choose an answer. And it looks like mostly everyone has voted. So let's end the poll there. And most of you got it right. Pretty easy, right? So the answer is dan tat, or egg tart. It is an egg custard filling with a flaky crust. Now, on to the next round. What do you think this is? Your options are a pork floss bun or yoksong bao, barbecue pork bun, char siu bao, pineapple bun, bolo bao, or custard bun, laiao bao. And if you noticed that they all end in bao, that would be because the word bao translates to bun in English. So we're gonna give you a couple more seconds to let everyone choose an answer to this poll. We're gonna get a little more, we're almost there. And for the most part, everyone has voted. So we're gonna end the poll right there. And most of you got it right. And the answer is char siu bao, or barbecue pork bun. It is a steamed bun filled with barbecue pork. Now on to the third round. So what do you think this is? Your options are a savory sticky rice, lo mai fan, lotus leaf sticky rice, lo mai kai, spare ribs, paikwat, or shrimp dumpling, hagao. And again, we're gonna give everyone some time to choose an answer. We're almost halfway there. We're halfway there now. We're almost 3/4 of the way there. And it looks like most everyone has voted. So let's end the poll right there. And it looks like majority of you got it right. So this is lo mai kai, or sticky rice wrapped in lotus leaves. It is a glutinous rice with chicken and sausage and mushrooms, all wrapped inside a lotus leaf.
And so like we said, it's going to get harder from now on. These next ones don't have English translations, but I'll be reading out the phonetics for you. So what do you guys think this next one is? Your options are ham shui go, feng zao, lo ba go, or wu tao go. And this is actually my favorite dim sum dish. I get it all the time whenever I go. But of course, all the other options equally as delicious. Can't wait to go back to dim sum once the pandemic is like officially over. All right, since the majority of you guys have turned it in, I will give it like 2 more seconds, and there you go. The answers. This actually trips up some of you guys. So the correct answer is ham shui go, but the other options equally delicious. So in English, it's a fried pork dumpling, which is a chewy glutinous rice wrapped around minced pork, and then that's all deep fried. Very yummy. All right, so for our next one, what do you guys think this is? And your options are lao lin so, da wonton, dao fu fa, and ma lai go. And I've actually never had this, but it's Jess's favorite dim sum dish, and that means I have a new order to try when I get to go back to dim sum. And I recommend you guys try it too then. All right, so, all right. There's more variety in answers this time, but once again, we'll show you the answers, and the majority of you guys have gotten it right. So this is actually lao lin so, and in English, it's a durian pastry, and there's a flaky exterior filled with soft durian. Very much recommended by Jess, so go try that out. All right, so this is our next one, and what do you guys think this is? Your options are ngao pat yip, bing shui, yang hai kim, and ha tu. And if you guys thought that this would be Michael's favorite dish, you are correct. So I have also never had this, but I really want to eat it. Like, look at how good that picture looks. So the majority of you guys have answered, and we're gonna reveal the answers. So, yep. Once again, majority of you guys know your dim sum. It is Yeonghai Kim, which in English is stuffed crab claw. And it's a crab claw coated with shrimp paste and deep fried. So all of these dishes we've presented are very delicious. We recommend you try them out. All right, so this concludes our intermission. You guys all did a great job at guessing these dim sum dishes, even if they did get tricky towards the end. And we hope this comes in handy for the next time you guys go and order dim sum. However, if you are still confused, you're always welcome to come eat dim sum with C2B. And once in-person events resume, we'll continue our annual trips to Chinatown, where you can dine with our fabulous club members. And from here, we'd like to welcome back Kanto Mando and transition to the live Q&A portion of the show, where you will all have the opportunity to ask them your questions.
We just wanted to remind you all that you can use the Zoom raise hand function to ask a question. This is under the participants tab on the bottom of the screen, and you can click on raise hand. So Michael will then ask you to unmute and you can ask your question. Of course, if you guys don't feel comfortable with physically asking your question, you can also type your question in the chat and one of us will read it aloud for you. For the questions that's been sent throughout the show, Chloe has been monitoring them and we'll also be reading some of those out. So we're gonna try to get to as many as possible.
All right, so everyone, you can raise your hand if you want to ask a question, or if you feel comfortable, put it in the chat.
All right, I'm gonna pick, yeah. And I'm gonna start off with a question from the chat that was sent in earlier. I've been looking at the questions and this one's actually got me really curious. This was sent in by Anonymous and it says, ask Sheldon, if Edward and Mike were both to fall into the water, who would you save first?
Oh, shit.
Wow, you're really breaking friendships out here.
Wait, Sean, don't use the excuse. I know what you're gonna say, man.
What am I gonna say?
You're gonna say because Edward is a better swimmer, I'm gonna leave Edward there to fend for himself, and then that means you just want me to die.
You really trying to boost yourself with that
Wow.
one. He's like,
Yo,
Sean, basically I'm trying to say he's a good
Sean,
swimmer,
do you
okay?
want somebody like that? Do you want to say something like
Okay.
that?
No, but honestly, I'm probably gonna save Edward.
Why?
Yo, why see me? Yo, if I save you, I'll have to deal with this the whole time. Like these random jokes about random like annoying jokes and stuff the whole time while I'm saving you and stuff. It's true.
Fair,
You're
fair.
Like I'm like grabbing his face like, so why you gotta touch me like that? You know what I mean?
Did you? Okay, never mind.
Mike,
Fine, it's fine.
Mike, how do you feel with that? How do you feel with that?
It just means that I'm more independent and I'll be able to survive on my own.
Okay.
It's okay.
Yo, I love these questions. These are such fun questions.
I guess on a similar note, this is also sent through the chat by Tracy Wang. What were your first impressions of each other?
Oh, okay. I could start with Edward because I met him first. Edward was an Ice Lightning mage in Maple Story, and he had a bowl cut and goofy glasses. So I was like, this is exactly what a great person to be friends with. Yeah, he was an Ice Lightning mage. Yeah, so that really got to me. Sheldon, first impression of Sheldon was Sheldon was very. Actually, I gotta think about that one. I gotta think about that one in high school because of the fact that you said you let me drown. So I gotta reevaluate you.
So these guys went to the same elementary school, went to a different one, and so I first met these guys on the basketball court, and basically my first impression of Mike was he came in, he was like I think he was wearing like, yeah, he definitely had like, I could tell this guy used to wear do-rags when he was a kid.
How can you tell that this guy used to wear
this
do-rags?
guy came in, he's like, yo, one-on-one, and I was like, okay, sure, right? And then I beat him. And then he was like, again. And I was like, okay, and I beat him again. And he's like, again. And then I beat him again. Yeah. And then this happened about 8 times. And I was like, yo, I'm very tired, man.
I actually don't remember that story going out that way.
So very stubborn. Edward, you know, I'll be honest, man. I had zero impression of you, dude. You have like a negative presence.
He turned from his laugh to a cry.
I don't even remember the moment I met you.
right.
I'm sorry.
Wait, actually, I'll give Sheldon the credit. But I remember him the first time I met him as a guy who always wore cardigans. Sheldon, always wore cardigans for some reason. You wore cardigan to everything. You wore cardigan when you were basketball gym class. You wore cardigan when you were in like English class. After school, you changed it. I swear that you brought 2 cardigans to school just to change it into like midday.
But I still won in basketball. But anyway.
Oh my god.
All right, my impression of Mike was so I sat next. So this was like we were in grade 7, right? We're both brand new at this school. We happened to be in the same class, and then I look over. I'm like, "Yo, play Maple Story," and he's like, "Yeah, I'll play Maple Story." And he's like, "Yo, Dexless Sin, right?" And then I was like, "Okay, yo, I'm gonna get along with this guy." But then the problem with Mike was that like he loved hip hop, right?
Yeah.
Hip hop culture and everything. So and he loves street ball. The problem with like when you play with basketball with we were outside playing basketball, and this guy like he's like, "Yo, check what I can do," right? And he starts just rolling on the ground with the basketball, like trying to do these tricks and stuff. And I'm like, "Yo, bro, man, I just want to play basketball." And he just shoot the ball, and he's just doing all these like funky things, wasting time. So that was my impression of Mike. And then impression of Sheldon was that Sheldon didn't go to the same school as Mike and I in elementary school. So we met the summer before high school when he came to play basketball in the park, which is the nets of our elementary school, Mike and I elementary school. So I was like, yo, this guy, not even from the same school as me, he's an intruder. I have to beat him at basketball. And that's all I remember.
Oh, you're not gonna did you win?
I won, dude. Yeah, I did.
All right, anyway.
Okay.
This guy didn't even mention the
Yeah,
result.
yeah. He knew.
Okay.
Those jokes.
Wait, so like who won? At
I won.
basketball?
I'm
you
gonna
won?
admit that Sheldon won on those occasions, yeah. But I think Sheldon won you too, Edward.
I'm not sure about that, dude. I know that I don't even know. I wasn't there when Sheldon beat you, but I heard this story like a million times, so I think it's true now.
How the tables have turned.
If you guys all played basketball now, who would win?
It's me, hands. It's not even close, man.
We actually do. We do it one-on-one outside sometimes.
They know.
It's a pretty even.
They know. See now the narrative has changed.
It's a pretty even matchup one-on-one.
It's not even close. It's not even close.
I'm just going to be humble and say that's an even matchup.
Yeah.
All right. So another question that was asked in the chat by Willie Zhang. She says, "How do you guys feel about the sudden wave of popularity of Asian culture around the world these days? Any positives or negatives?"
Well, I think like what do you mean by Asian culture? Like, do you mean like K-pop is big and then like everyone likes Chinese food, like stuff like that? But overall, I think it's
Are
great.
you gonna wait for the answer? Or...
No, wait.
Yeah.
Are you-
Yeah.
What was the answer? Like after she asked the question.
Willie, could you please clarify? No, I'm kidding. But I mean, if she can, then yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, it's nice. I mean, like, sorry. Now I don't have to hide my sushi when I eat it.
True.
Right? So that's great.
I think it's very positive too. I think just having more representation in general is very good for everybody. Yeah.
I think it's inevitably a positive thing. I think I was reading some arguments about how people were thinking like, oh, like they only like it for the music, or they only like this aspect of it. They don't even explore other aspects. But like no matter what, I mean, when you get like, imagine like the culture as a whole is like a ball with a bunch of different holes to go into it. And you know, this pop culture stuff is just one of them. And so inevitably
You got lost at your analogy.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I did not know
I'm
what
sorry.
you
I'm
meant.
sorry. Okay, imagine a ball with a bunch of different funnels, right?
Okay.
And that's just one of the funnels, you know, through which people can come in and appreciate the Asian culture.
So is it like a carnival game
No,
kind of funnel?
he's
or-
saying gateway.
Yes, it's the gateway.
Oh, okay, okay.
It just adds another gateway and opens the world for more people.
It's true.
And I think that you know, compared to I guess when we were growing up, and you know, none of that stuff. I remember I used to like listen to my Chinese music so quietly because I was embarrassed about it, or I would like hide my anime obsession because I was embarrassed about it. But now I feel like it's completely different.
Yeah.
So I think that's absolutely wonderful. It's great.
Yeah, it's like, you know, you see a lot of people like get into K-pop because they love the music, you know, they love the band, and the next thing you know, they're making like tteokbokki at home and like kimchi, and then they know more Korean food than me. I'm just like, whoa. Okay.
I remember I saw a lot of comments. Some people would find our channel because you know they stumble upon some random K-pop things, and they're like, oh wow, through you guys I learned a lot more about different aspects of Chinese culture because you know, I came in through this, but I saw these other stuff, and I think it just opens people's minds to these different aspects of Asia as a whole. So I think it's absolutely great.
Your analogy might need a little more work, but yes,
Yeah,
we got there in the
I was thinking
end. I
golf at
definitely-
first, and I was carnival games, and I was science experiment.
I was thinking, you know, that really
Yeah.
lightweight floaty
Yeah.
ball with holes in it. It's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
plastic ball. You used
Yeah.
to whip it like that in gym class.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Yeah.
Oh, so carnival game. So it's a carnival
Yeah,
game.
the carnival ball. The carnival
Oh,
ball.
okay,
Anyway,
okay, okay.
sorry.
Is it fun? You gotta get it.
Totally
make it fun.
okay. All right.
This is also from Anonymous, but who's your favorite C-pop singer since you mentioned K-pop so much?
Favorite C-pop singer.
C-pop
Ooh,
singer.
okay, right now I'm on like a very old Cantonese song like marathon, but right now I've listened to a lot of Twins.
Twins is great.
I listen to a lot of Twins. I listen to a lot of like Beyond. So that's my obsession right now. I like legit play the song like 24/7. Yeah.
For me, I can't speak on C-pop because I don't listen to as much. But if you were to Chinese artist wise, I'd probably say Jay Chou. Yeah.
Jay Chou. Yeah, I mean,
Most
for
listened to.
Mandarin, I
Yes.
do like Jay Chou.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cantonese, like, I don't know, but I like all of them. Like I grew up listening to a lot of Raymond Lam, Linda Chung, especially when they sing duets. Like I have a CD in my car. That's how old school I am. I have a CD in my car with the stuff on. I love like the Say That Teen Wall. I found myself listening to a lot of their old like 80s, 90s music. And I'm like, hey mom, do you know this? And she's like, no. I'm like, dude, what the heck? Like you're from this era, you should know this. Yeah. If anything, if I had to say one, I would say probably Raymond Lam still.
Before the show, they were actually playing in terms of like very modern Cantonese music. They were playing a song by Dear Jane, which is a band. They're really good.
Oh, is it more like up and coming? Like new?
It's a band. It's a band from, and then there's Supper Moment, which is also another band. But I like those a lot. Those are like very very good bands.
There's also Eason Chan.
Yeah, Eason Chan.
Eason Chan's classic. Leo Ku's a classic.
Yeah.
Raymond Lam is definitely my favorite because I just discovered him through TVB dramas, and I was like, oh my god, that guy, I know him.
Yeah, you're like
So-
all length eye, right?
Yeah,
Every
but
time I listen to like Oi Bucko, I think back to like the TVB
Yes.
dramas, the Moonlight drama, or the Mooncake drama.
I was the question I asked you. Were you Team Raymond or were you Team Bosco?
Rayman.
Raymond.
Team Raymond? I was actually Team Bosco.
Because he was a doctor.
Yeah, he's a doctor, but he's also more like aloof and kind of cool. And Raymond was like, "Please date me, please date me." And I was like, "Hmm." I think
Alright.
Bosco's the cooler here.
So related to this, another anonymous person asked, what is your favorite C drama?
Probably Tong Sim Feng Bo or Gao Yu Yun.
I actually watched two like very good C dramas before. One was Stephen Chow's. Can you even consider that as a C drama? Or C
I think movies dramas.
Yeah, Stephen Chow's. Is it Mastery of what was it? Cookery.
Oh, God of Cookery.
God of Cookery. And then the other one was it's called. It's about this gangster movie called A Better Tomorrow. I think.
Oh, I think I watched that. That's really good.
That was a really
Yeah.
good movie. I was like, damn, that's a really really.
You know,
good movie.
like, dude, C drama, they always gangsters, man. When there's
Yeah.
a cop, there's gangsters, and then like
Try out, but it's good character development. Very
yeah,
very good.
yeah. Oh, and also like there's this one where it's the school academy, the police academy. It's always a police academy.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's one called Ho Chang Si Jie, which I really like. Gao Yu Yun and Tong Song Mo, like Moonlit Resonance and Heart of Greed. Those are classics. There's one called Triumph in the Skies that I like when I was younger.
Shams right now is like, dude, are you just gonna say all the movies so I don't have anything to say?
No, I mean I was thinking because I was literally just watching it earlier today. But my favorite, I guess, movie is probably Ip Man. So Yip Man, or Ye Wen in Mandarin. But it's basically about like this like master of like Chinese martial arts. But it's like super good. One of my favorites. Like the fight scenes are so good. But yeah, that's one of my favorites.
We actually just watched that movie at one of our previous events. Yeah,
Wait, did you
I
watch
loved
the
it.
first
It was
one?
my first time watching. Yeah, it was the first one. Mhm.
So good, so good. When he fights 10 people at once, I'm made up.
On
Very
the topic of,
realistic,
like,
of course.
on the topic of Asian C dramas, like when I was younger, you know, you watch those like ones where it's like throwback into like a different era when it's like ancient.
Mhm.
And then they're like all swords and they're like flying through the air and they do this and then
Yeah.
like there's like a shockwave that comes out and like the sword gets thrown in the sky, you know.
Those are so cool.
Those are
man.
so cool. And I used to like think that I could do that.
Yeah.
I was like, yo, mom, look, I'm fighting people at once, right? I was like, yo, put my spear around.
I'll definitely say watching all those dramas though, I watched like so many doctor, lawyers, like police ones that I was like, oh my God, that's what I want to do in the future. It looks so cool, looks so fabulous. So of course I was like, that's what I want.
And also all the undercover dramas. I wanted to be like an undercover back then after watching all of those like, police dramas.
Oh, that right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's another movie that's very famous, Infernal Affairs, Mo Ganto. That one is like a undercover story.
Yeah. I mean, you want to be undercover, but it's always so scary because they always like have these scenes where the guy is about to get busted by the head gangster, and you're just like, oh my God, no, please, right?
I mean, he always gets out though.
No, yeah, I mean, he dies in a lot of them. Undercover guy.
Okay. So back to some of the questions that other people were asking. Deborah asked, what was your favorite video to make and what was your least favorite video to make?
To make it. Oh, the favorite video is always the easiest one.
Yeah,
I feel like, but the least favorite is a hard one.
Least favorite. Okay, all right. So favorite video right now, for me, I probably love. I love the. No. For me, I love the. I love like all the different like Chinese challenges we have, like the Cantonese cooking one, the Mandarin cooking one, as well as like when we used to do a lot of these like Chinese language challenges where we just like try stuff with each other, and I love those because those. I mean, I love speaking the language, I love promoting the language, and so those meant a lot to me, especially when I see comments, people being like, "Oh my God, like this made me want to speak the language more. This made me want to learn whatever language," and I think that like those mean a lot to me.
I think for me, the favorite video ever is probably our first table challenge. I don't recall which one it was. Maybe the pickup line. Pickup line with the animal.
The song translation.
Song translation. Yeah. So
translating English songs to Chinese.
Yeah. So I think the earlier memories of filming videos and everything was really enjoyable. Just three guys in my basement, kind of laughing our heads off, not really knowing what we're doing. So that's a very dear place in my heart. But least favorite. Damn, that's hard.
Okay, so I'll go. My favorite, well, I think it's the high heels one because I really like the ones where we do different things where we never thought we would do, and then we just kind of like live a general day of our life.
Yeah.
But with this kind of like thing, this kind of restriction or this thing that we have to do.
Height boost.
Yeah, it was just really fun because like
we wore high heels.
Yeah,
for
we wore high heels for a day
for a night out.
Yeah, we saw how that was, and then my least favorite ones are probably the ones where I think in the last couple months when we got a bit sidetracked from the vision of the channel, we started doing more videos where it's like one person leads the way and then not like all three of us are involved in it. And those are probably my least favorite because it's you're losing that interaction as friends, so it's not as fun anymore. You kind of see it as just like a chore. So anything that we do all together that we don't know like who's gonna come out, well, what's gonna happen, like are my favorite, and things that we do separate are probably my least favorite.
Yeah, I can agree on that too.
So
sorry, yeah.
No, I definitely think that some of my favorite ones are when you're trying to do like cooking a recipe, but like it's in a completely different language, and I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, one of my favorites.
Sure. So I think we're gonna do one last question. So we're gonna go with also from the chat. Tina asked, "What's your favorite dim sum order? What do you go like? What's your go-to?"
Oh, okay. Before that game, I would have been really confident, but after that game, and I saw all the different types of dim sum, I really missed so many of them, like all of them.
I think for me is hot gaos. Those are like the
hot gaos are probably the worst for me.
Really? Hot gao is so like basic.
It's so
like,
general.
It's hot gao, you know. It's like
no.
Wow, way to attack me for an opinion.
Hot gao and siu mai are so like
fine.
Okay,
yeah, but siu mai is actually good.
It's like
look how much you get judged for just liking something. Okay, I'm sorry, Sheldon. What mysterious dim sum food do you like?
Ham sui gao. They had that in the game as well, but that's very good.
My favorite.
Can't agree with that. I may have to go with something even more basic than hot gao.
What? Siu mai?
No.
Lo mai gai?
Siu and bao.
Oh, that is true. That is true. I might have to step aside. I might step over to your
Siu
team.
and bao is pretty good, but dan ta is good. But dan ta, when you eat like two, then you die of like of how heavy it is in your stomach, right? So that is kind of risky.
There's some stuff like the custard bun, like lao bao, for
Oh,
example.
I hate anything that is bun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like it was like what's it called? A siu bao or whatever.
Like sweet buns, right?
No, just like the
Custard?
the really big fluffy white bun with just stuff in the middle,
Yeah.
meat buns, and you put anything inside.
Those are good.
I like
like
it
them?
when it's like a thin pay.
So you like
Yeah.
the suing baos?
Yeah, siu bao, siu mais, and stuff like that.
All right, and yeah, so like so that concludes our live Q&A portion for tonight. Sorry if we couldn't get to your questions, as we actually got a lot actually. But thank you everyone who asked a question, and of course, thank you Kanto Mando for answering everyone's questions.
And before we conclude tonight's show, we just want to spend some time thanking our seniors. Congratulations on graduating this semester to Audrey, Jess, and Michael. And we look forward to another semester with our remaining seniors, Isabel and Ivy. So here's a little something for you guys.
Ooh.
聯想校友會的周年宴，即將跟你遇見，竟令我紅起一張臉，幼嫩得媲美昨天。殘酷地再見，是你顯得禮貌欠欠。故事也許終結10年。而沒太多需要掛牽，怎用最奢侈的懷緬，好好給你實踐？這是我無知青春的結欠，跟你沒發展，情路越行越遠，幾多對象相愛和情變，滄桑彌漫似你唇上香煙。能否用你今天的微笑，補影一次合照，竟令到回憶都給污染了，真相被揭曉，原來是唯獨我此刻帶着苦笑來憑吊，這一場玩笑，漂亮的燭照。在面對我們成長，必經夠幸福競賽。25年後，當你實現的美好將來，能淡化我悲哀，在人海再遇，說一些大概。你抱擁，我情分開，互取瑣碎的灌溉。人看着人海，悲歡愛恨都記載。200年後，所有事物都重出青苔，墳墓見證花開，又何必掛礙，秒速一段愛，再後悔都精彩。
So once again, thank you guys so much to all our seniors. We love you. We'll miss you. We wish you the best. Having worked with all of you guys, I know you guys will do great things in your future. And also for anyone who would like to rewatch our e-board video, senior video, or the recording of tonight's show, we'll be posting it to our socials. So just look out for that. And one more thing, if our president would like to say a few words.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to give a huge thank you to the Culture Show coordinators for being able to hold Yumcha this year virtually, even during the COVID pandemic. They've put a lot of work into making this happen, working with the school. And also thank you so much to Kanto Mando for taking this time to share your experiences as an Asian person living in a non-Asian community and also as YouTubers. And lastly, I just want to thank all of you guys for coming to our show. I hope that everyone had a great time.
Thank you.
You guys so much for putting that video together. Honestly, it's like making me want to tear up because I'm gonna miss you guys so much. But as we end the night, we wanted to thank everyone for coming to our first ever virtual Yamcha. And as fun as this was, we really hope to be able to see everyone in person next year instead. So we wanted to give a huge shout out to all the members in C2B for working so hard on the show with us. And also a big thank you to ICC, A-Board, and DSA for making the show possible. But of course, the biggest thanks of all goes to our guest for tonight, Kanto Mando. So you guys can please turn on your camera or use the emoticons, but let's give them a huge round of applause. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank
We
you.
hear it. We hear it.
Thank you
We hear
guys.
it. All the way from Boston or
Yeah.
wherever you guys are.
I was gonna say that video was very heartwarming. Like
You absolutely
I-
know.
it's not for me, but that
I know,
video
I know, I know what you
it
feel.
made me like emotional. Like it was very nice.
It made you emotional of your times at Van Nuys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, but yeah.
Made you miss
It's
university.
an amazing video. It's very emotional actually.
Yeah, but thanks for having us. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
inviting
Yeah,
us.
thank you guys for
Really
having us.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
A really fun
Thank you for joining us.
event.
Yeah, so yeah, so
And-
to, go ahead, go ahead.
No. I was gonna say you go ahead.
All right, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, just to wrap up everything, like, thank you guys again for coming and joining us on this wonderful night. It's definitely a pleasure to have you guys, speak to us and give us like, some insight on your perspectives and everything that you've gone through. And I think that's just like, I feel like I can speak for everyone, but just like, big thank you. And, thank you guys and thank you everyone for coming. We want everyone to have a great night. To all the students, we hope everyone has a good luck on finals if you still have them. Enjoy winter break and happy holidays.
All right. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, everyone.
Nice. Thank you guys for having
Thank
us.
You guys have been awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.
All right,
Bye,
everyone.
guys.
So that
Have a nice
concludes it.
night. Bye, guys. And just a reminder for eBoard to please stay behind. But for everyone else, have a nice night. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you, guys. Cool. All right. So
I think we can end recording right now.